for 6.5 hours.
That's a good,
Over what
that's
we were
a good.
expecting to
It would have been the other way around. Laid down there.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
We had a good.
The place was crowded, the people were sick and coughing, and I kept going, we're gonna get that, we're gonna get that. Yeah, 6.5 hour delay. They kept coming up an hour delay, a half hour delay. You know how that goes.
Yep.
Hey, Derek. Life is good, you?
Yeah, okay.
As good as always, as ever. When you're ready, Sarah. She covered it. Ah. Doing good. It's still 2 minutes to go. It's 5:58. I hate to have somebody say we started too soon. I see Mr. Munson is here. I call the order for the City of Petoskey City Council meeting for March 3rd, 2025. I ask that you all rise with me for Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Beck, would you please call roll?
Demore, present. Shields.
Here.
Naktrod.
Here.
Walker, present. Murphy.
Present, we have a quorum. Now we have a great opportunity, and that's to hear the presentation by Public Safety Director Rocky Carr, not Adrian, concerning the department's awards for meritorious actions. I'm going to turn it over to Rocky.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for everyone being here tonight. We're kind of packed the room here, and I appreciate the turnout. And we're going to jump right into it. This is a meritorious action is basically our officers, when they do something good or they recognize somebody doing something good, they put in for these awards. So this isn't me recognizing all of the officers, it's them recognizing each other, which I think makes this even more important, as well as the community. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. I think we have roughly 10 of these. So the first one is it's a public safety citation, and it's for PSO Larry Donovan. Yep, sorry. In 2024, PSO Donovan made the decision to change gears from working the road to trying his hand as school resource officer. Through this new role, he became aware of Petoskey School District's plan for each school to have their own emotional support dog. PSO Donovan, with the support of both the department and the school, began this process of becoming the primary caregiver for the middle school's new emotional support dog, Ace. PSO Donovan took it upon himself to apply for grant funding to assist with the training and was successful in attaining these funds. He has put a lot of his own time, money, and energy into bringing Ace to the middle school. And once he's fully trained, PSO Donovan will house and care for this support dog. The efforts put forth by PSO Donovan to not only identify the benefits of having an emotional support dog within the school, but to see this vision through is commendable. For these actions, PSO Donovan is hereby awarded a public safety citation. Next is another public safety citation to PSO Frederick Halk, PSO John Dutch, and PSO Scott Lamont. And PSO Dutch is here to accept the word for all. On January 5th, 2025, at approximately 8:01 p.m., officers were requested to assist Emmett County Sheriff's Office with a report of an armed robbery at a gas station in Bayview. Once officers were provided a description, they began canvassing the area for signs of the suspect. PSO Halk was able to identify foot impressions matching the suspects behind an apartment complex, the north end of Petoskey city limits. Officers Lamont and Dutch assisted with setting up and adjusting a perimeter in an attempt to locate the fleeing suspect. PSO Halk was joined by MSP K-9 unit and Emmett County deputies as they tracked the suspect's footprints in the snow for approximately 4 miles in frigid temperatures. As the track began to close in on the suspect, PSO Lamont overheard Detective Cowell yelling in a neighborhood off of Jennings Avenue. It was evident to PSO Lamont that Detective Cowell had located the suspect. Detective Cowell and PSO Lamont were able to take the suspect into custody and transport to the Emmett County Jail without further incident. This incident had many moving parts, and cooperation by several law enforcement entities was necessary to bring a dangerous suspect into custody. For the actions taken by the public safety officers involved in this apprehension, they are hereby awarded with a public safety citation. Next is a public safety commendation to Detective Scott Lamont and PSO Michael Dolan. On March 20, 2024, PSO Dolan was notified of a fraudulent activity complaint. According to the victim, she had been receiving calls from an unknown number for the past 2 days. The victim stated the unknown male was requesting bank transactions and gold purchases to avoid extradition. After extensive investigation, it was determined a wire transfer was made from the victim's account in the amount of $248,000. This case was turned over to Detective Lamont for further investigation. Once received, Detective Lamont contacted an agent with the FBI who assisted with a wire transfer recall. Turns out there was a hold placed on the victim's account due to suspected fraud. Thanks to the investigation skills of PSO Dolan and follow-up by Detective Lamont, the entire amount removed from the victim's account was returned. For these reasons, Detective Lamont and PSO Dolan are hereby awarded public safety citation. Next is the unit citation awarded to Carl Fritz, PSO Larry Donovan, PSO Alexis Steele, and PSO Connor Kish. On June 14th, 2024, at approximately 1:43 p.m., PSO Donovan was assigned a very difficult case involving an intoxicated mother who was caring for her 3.5-year-old child. The information was provided the mother might be too intoxicated to make rational decisions to care for the child. This is an extremely rare situation, and a difficult decision was made by staff to remove the child from the mother and contact Child Protective Services for emergency alternate placement. CPS understood this difficult situation and supported this decision. CPS advised that per their policy, they could not help care for the child until after an emergency hearing was held and alternate placement was found. This is where public safety officers Fritz, Steele, and Kish stepped up to the task and assisted in caring for the child until emergency placement was found. The above PSOs recognized the child's needs and placed it above all else. They showed genuine compassion and empathy by providing toys, food, a tablet, and playing with the child until a more permanent resolution was made by the Department of Health and Human Services. The nature utilized in handling this extremely sensitive incident by all officers truly highlights all aspects of what is expected to be a public safety officer. For the aforementioned actions, these officers are hereby awarded a unit citation. Next is a unit citation, PSO William Bowen, PSO Hunter Arnold, and PSO Adam Klimza. On October 29, 2024, at approximately 7:30 PM, School Resource Officer Donovan responded to an okay to say tip at the Petoskey Middle School referencing an unattended box of live ammunition found in close proximity to the rear entrance of the school. This resulted in an extensive outdoor and even more extensive indoor search of the high school and the middle school facilities. Due to the fact this was after hours, no additional staff was readily available to assist in the search. Thus, the request fell on the short-shifted public safety on-duty personnel. The search included not only the buildings, but every locker in both schools to allow the administration to make a decision to continue to hold school the following morning. These officers assisted into late hours of the night with whatever was requested in order to ensure safety of children and staff. Their assistance was greatly appreciated by the school resource officers and school administration, who requested these officers be acknowledged for their selflessness and commitment toward the public safety. For the above mentioned reasons, PSO Bowen, Arnold, and Klimza are hereby awarded unit citation. Next is a letter of commendation to Regina Ellenberger. On February 25, 2024, the Petoskey Department of Public Safety was subject to a lean audit. A lean audit is extremely time-consuming and focused on the accuracy of information entered into the system and the purpose behind departmental use. In the last 20 years, we've only passed 2 lean audits, these being the last 2. This is due to the superior job and attention to detail Ms. Ellenberger displays on a daily basis. The 2 departmental employees assigned as lean tech are Officer Manager Gina Ellenberger and PSO Ben Carlson. PSO Carlson, being assigned as School Resource Officer, was only able to provide minimal assistance toward the lean audit. During the audit, 30 warrants were checked on 30 fields of accuracy, 900 individual data points. And the auditor indicated a 0% error rate. The auditor advised the Petoskey Department of Public Safety is only the second agency in her region to receive a 0% error rate in her many years of being an auditor. For these reasons, the Department of Public Safety would like to recognize Office Manager Gina Ellenberger with a letter of commendation. It doesn't get nearly the recognition that she should to hold this whole show together, so. Next is the Mayor's Award.
Very good. Officer Carlson, would you step up?
How you doing?
Public Safety Officer Carlson was one of Petoskey Public Safety's 2 school resource officers. Public Safety Officer Carlson has developed many strong relationships, not just with students, but faculty and staff as well, throughout the Petoskey area school system. Because of his connection with the student body, many things have been reported to him. He's been able to take many proactive approaches and to do preventive measures to ensure safety of students and faculty alike. During a recent student pride survey, students are here, conducted at Petoskey High School, students were asked one question. What person in Petoskey schools cares the most about you? Resource Officer Carlson was number one answer in that survey. Public Safety Director Carlson has truly found his niche that benefits all of our community. We recognize his passion and ability to protect the next generation of our community leaders. And for this reason, Public Safety Officer Ben Carlson is hereby presented the Mayor's Award. Congratulations.
The next award is the Chiefs Award, and it's going to go to the Petoskey varsity and junior varsity baseball teams. So if there's any representatives here for that, want to step forward.
Coach, come on.
On May 2nd, 2024, at approximately 4 p.m., the Petoskey Department of Public Safety was notified of a missing child in the area of Ottawa School. Directed patrol was initiated in the area in an attempt to locate the missing child. Petoskey varsity and junior varsity baseball teams took notice of our presence and were informed of the emergency. Without hesitation, both teams, coaches, and players began canvassing the surrounding area in an attempt to locate the child. The child was eventually located by Coach Loper, who facilitated the child's return to the mother. This is how we build strong members in the community, by not only instructing the importance of looking out for one another, but displaying this concept through actions. Players might not remember many of the practices after this season, but I assure you they will remember this one and its life lesson. We feel that the action displayed on this day deserve recognition. For the aforementioned reasons, the Petoskey varsity and junior varsity baseball members of 2024 are hereby awarded the Chiefs Award. We're closing in there, 2 more to go. Next is the Chiefs Award for Edward Nowak. Edward Nowak has been the crossing guard at the intersection of Jennings and Kalamazoo for many years. He helps children headed to and coming from various schools cross the busy intersection safely, and always does so with a friendly smile and wave. Edward is out in the cold, blowing snow, rain, and any other weather conditions Northern Michigan chooses to throw at him. Edward's friendly wave and smile to students and families crossing the road or by driving by on their commute to school is a great way for many to start their day. The Petoskey Department of Public Safety would like to thank Edward Nowak for his many years of service to our community and recognize these efforts by awarding him Chiefs Award. This award is the Chiefs Award to Melanie Zamron. Make it. On September 18th, 2024, Melanie Zamron was working as a lunch monitor for the Petoskey Middle School when she was approached by a frantic 7th grade student making the universal sign as he was choking. Seeing a look of fear in the student's eyes, recognizing the nonverbal cues, along with the student not making any sounds, Ms. Zamron immediately took action. Ms. Zamron administered several forceful back blows which dislodged the obstruction, allowing the student the ability to take a breath. The student's parents were notified of the event, and the student required no additional medical attention. The school staff, parents, and students were all extremely grateful for Ms. Zamron's early recognition and quick action. It should be noted But this is the second time Ms. Zamron has saved a choking student during lunch hours at the Petoskey Middle School. If there was three, we'd think you're a suspect. For her actions on this day, Ms. Zamron is hereby awarded the Chiefs Award. We have a short little video that was prepared as someone couldn't be here today, and we'll see if we can get it to work.
Mr. Will, why are we having this interview from this specific spot in the school?
Choking on the night.
All right, so you got a message from this family you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't get the words. I'll be in Washington DC with the trip, but I thank you for saving my life.
All right.
And lastly, well, there's two things. One thing I just would like to thank all the officers for coming out tonight. Many of them, it's their day off and they're here to support one another. But the officers for Petoskey Public Safety truly understand service. And one example, I was driving home 2 weeks ago in the middle of a snowstorm after work. And I drove by the Winter Sports Park and I saw a police car there, one of our SUVs, and I saw another vehicle that was in the ditch with three people standing next to the car and one person shoveling the car out. And the person shoveling the car out was one of our officers, Connor Kish. And he had no idea that I would see that, but that's the service type of people that these officers don't get recognized for everything that they do, but just know that they care and they're out there doing it. And lastly, we have two officers that completed 25 years of service to the city of Petoskey. One, Frederick Helk, which he was in Florida. Lucky him. The other is standing to my left, Todd Troxel. Thank you very much. And that concludes our portion.
I know speaking for all of city council, I'd like to say thank you very much, officers, for what you bring to this city. You are really the ambassadors to this city, other than maybe the snowplow guy driving down this winter, being seen by everybody and yelled at. You guys are the ambassadors to the city citizens, to the people visiting here and the people living here. If it wasn't for your actions, this city would not be the kind of city we have. And we're all very proud of you guys and have to say thank you very much for not just the safety part of it that you carry through, but also for being ambassadors to reaching out to 9,000 calls this last year, over 9,000. You guys are the ambassadors that people see first, that people respect, and you bring that high level to Petoskey that we always aim for. So thank you very much, you guys, for what you do for the city of Petoskey. Dismissed.
When you do presentation, will you go to the- we let that work?
Yes. Where's Milo?
Okay, we're ready.
Just do it. I'd like to, before we move, I'd like to let you know that Brian Wagner, our past city council member, he's come back to visit with his daughter Laura, who's a teacher at Concord Petoskey, who's working on a master's, and she's got to come back. And so guess who came with her today? I thought it was important to just say hello and thank you. Okay. Now we'll hear a presentation by Public Safety Director Adrian Rocky Carr concerning the department's 2024 annual report. Rocky.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm just going to hit a few of the highlights for our 2024 annual report. I know you received a very detailed copy, and that will be on our website tomorrow. I believe Gina wanted to add some photos from tonight to kind of finalize things. Calls for service, we responded to, as the mayor said earlier, 9,463 requests for service, and we logged 8,193 complaint numbers, which was a 993 increase from 2023. Made 398 total arrests, 89 felonies, and 309 misdemeanors. And here's a little bit of just a comparison over the years of Bay Harbor and Petoskey. You can see this gradual increase and quite a bit of an increase in 2024. Next slide is just a further breakdown of our calls, and when compared to 2023, there were only really a few, not even really outliers, but 911 hang-up calls, we were up 108 calls for service. Our juvenile complaints were up 31 from 2023, and I believe that is equated to us having now 2 school resource officers. So at the end of the year, we started with our second school resource officer, Larry Donovan, which I believe contributed to that increase of 31. And we had 801 more traffic stops in 2024 than 2023. Okay, next slide. I guess that's just a further breakdown of how we got the totals. And the 8,193, there's a discrepancy in between the 9,000 actual calls for service and the 8,193. Those are ones that we would pull a complaint number for, where if it's unfounded, we wouldn't. Next is code enforcement. Officer Tony Belmonte investigated a total of 414 ordinance violations. 14 citations were issued, and there's just a few photographs of what Tony dealt with this year. And the next slide is our International Property Maintenance Code. He addressed 9 of the IPMC codes last year, and you can see one of them here that took quite a bit of attention in order to remedy the hazard. We also had some opportunities to share our knowledge. Detective Lamont was a subject matter expert on the panel of discussion of human trafficking. PSO Bowen was in Florida training people to be drug recognition experts. And I had the pleasure of being the keynote speaker at the middle school for the career fair. And I did not push public safety down their throat. I just said to follow your passion, pretty much. So it's all right, even though it's starting to come to that. The next slide is the open house. We had a great turnout this year for the open house. And it's really hard to gauge from year to year. We kind of gauge it by how many hot dogs we have left at the end of the open house, but it really is a good celebration of our community. We were able to just highlight a lot of the things that our community offers, and our neighboring communities show up as well, which is really nice. Next slide's our detective position. Just kind of a brief overview of what Detective Lamont did in 2024. He worked on 150 new cases, he investigated 39 complaints, reopened 9 cases. He was very busy, and he concluded his stint as detective at the end of 2024. And now we have a new detective, Detective Will Bowen. So it's a 3-year assignment, which really allows for other officers to have a chance to get specialized training, and we really become a more well-rounded department the more detectives that we get through due to the amount of training that they get. Next is the school resource officers, Carlson and Donovan. They both make huge impacts up at the school with the children up there. You can see they interact with them daily. There's the ace, soon to be at the middle school. So the support dog, and obviously Michigan did beat state in the, sorry, sir. But so he was forced to wear the Michigan. So they're really doing a great job up there. I've received numerous praise from all the administrative staff and a lot of the parents as well. They've made a huge impact up there, and they're doing a great job. Next is academy graduation and our new officer at Clemsa. Am I on the way now? Anyway, we went to, myself and Lieutenant Troxel went up to the graduation up at Lake Superior State. There he is. And he makes us look really heavy. He's just a skinny guy, but he's going to do a great job for us. He started his, it's a good full year of training in order to get his EMT license as well as his firefighter 1 and 2. And he started the process, and he's eager to learn, and such a great addition to our department. Next slide is about training. In public safety, it's nonstop training all the time, seems like. But we were presented with some really good training this year. Hazmat, autism awareness, active shooter, arson investigation, firearms, defensive tactics, de-escalation, implicit bias, use of force. Those are just a few of the things that we've trained on in 2024. And we had a really unique opportunity to host. It's kind of convoluted how they wanted us to, they don't want their name used or their instructors used because they don't want to bring any further attention to their university. But we had a university who was involved in an active incident come and teach a full day, and we had 80 attendees of 35 different agencies represented, which was school staff as well as police departments and fire departments, because when these things happen, it affects your whole community. So that was a really unique opportunity that was hosted by the college for us. The fire department responded to 904 fire and emergency medical service calls. Those broke down into 290 as fire response and 614 medical responses. And the next slide, we are very thankful that we were able to get this exhaust system for our officers. It's notable, and especially in the wintertime when we were just cracking doors and hoping that the exhaust would kind of filter through. For city council and planning commission to be able to assist us gaining this, it's really been a game changer next door. Now the officers back up, stop short of the door, and hook this system in, and then they're able to back in. So there's very little odor and toxins now that we're having to breathe in on a normal daily basis. So we thank you for that. Also, some inspections. We completed 82 fire and life safety inspections with our 3 certified fire inspectors this year. So it's broken down in the different categories. And I believe our last slide is our community engagement. Of course, you would see this in here, right? So from time to time, I get asked what we do for community engagement. So this year, myself and our office staff tried to keep track. And I know we missed maybe a few of them in there, but as you can see, I'm not going to read every single one of these, but we take every opportunity that is presented to try and engage with the public. We host a lot of things. We try and show up when we are requested. We even show up when we're not requested. So we have a great team, and we had a really good outreach in 2024 and expect nothing but this improved activities in 2025. Hope this would continue. And that's the down and dirty, my report, annual report, and I will field any questions.
We're up, what, 900, 800, something like that, calls. Is there, what do you see that reflecting?
Well, and I should touch on that really quickly. To answer your question, I think we've hired some younger officers that are active,
Okay.
extremely active. And that has part to do with it. I think also us having a second resource officer, you're probably going to see those calls for service even higher because of the issues that we didn't deal with in the past up at the middle school. They're a good team, both shifts. They work well together. They feed off one another. And they make a lot of traffic stops. You can see 800 traffic stops. Or I should say 800 more traffic stops in 2024 than 2023. So they're just very active. And now that we have another officer and truthfully, it's commendable because we've removed another officer now up at the school. So they're dealing with even one less. Now we have a detective and 2 school resource officers that are not able to assist a lot. And our numbers keep going up and they keep handling it. So.
First of all, I want to balance the field here with the shout out to Michigan by saying go green. And I expect Mr. Wagner. Thank you, Mr. Wagner. In all seriousness, and under the log of complaints, I did have a question. Property inspections, it says there's 38 of those in Petoskey and 9 in Bay Harbor. Are those the same as the International Property Code inspections, or is that something different? Sorry, I can tell you. Yep, it's page 11. It's the log of all the different possible complaints. And if there's a category there called property inspection, mine at least, yeah, it's page 11.
I don't have that page 11.
I can hand off mine if you want.
Let me take a look.
Absolutely. There you go. Yeah, so I'm wondering if those are the same thing as the International Property Maintenance Code or something different.
So property inspections are probably more along the lines with short-term rentals.
Okay.
So they would pull a number if they get called for short-term rental or the inspections at the school and such. They wouldn't be. actually, come to think of it, that could also be when Tony pulls a number for some type of property check too. So the IPMC, the 9 that he had would probably fit into that as well.
And so with the the IPMC, International Property Maintenance Code, are those all exterior? They're all exterior.
Yes, if it gets to the point where it needs to go to the inner sanctions of the property, then that's when we contact the county because they are more with structural issues.
Okay.
We are shingles and siding and debris and yard types of things.
Okay, and then just a comment. I wanted to commend you on your achievement of turning 50. Well done. You included that in your report, or I wouldn't out you in that way.
I did.
But also you said here, I've learned that to affect change, there needs to be a catalyst. Don't be afraid to question the why and know that when you speak up, you're not the only one thinking the same thoughts. You're just the one with the courage to express them. And I want to say thank you to you for modeling, allowing people to have, or encouraging people to have respectful voice. I think it's really important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I haven't had the pleasure to meet you. I'm the new guy on the block here. Some of your predecessors, but I was really impressed with how you spoke from what appeared to me from the heart in your letter. That you are one serious dude, but you care a lot, and I would just that really hit me really hard.
Thank you.
Second, my question. I had a couple of questions. I live in Bay Harbor. I'm Ward 3, so Bay Harbor doesn't have as many incidents, but it's up 26% year over year. And it's a little bit of a follow-up from the mayor question. I'm assuming we didn't have any more hours patrolling. Do you have a feel as to why there was such an increase in Bay Harbor? I saw a lot of alarms called. Were they false alarms? It seemed to be a lot of traffic incidents. Just kind of curious.
It's truthfully hills and valleys when it comes to there, but I can tell you, our lieutenants have had, they make sure that the officers are out working. You know, we have performance reviews every year where, you know, we point out things where, what do you think you could do better? Or those conversations, and a lot of it is we need to be out interacting and making traffic stops and trying to protect. So the youth that we have and the willingness to be out in the cold weather and making traffic stops and being out of the vehicles and shaking hands and meeting people, I think is really evident in the crew that we have right now.
And so that would apply to Bay Harbor too. It's
Absolutely
surprising to me, you know, that we have a lot of issues in Bay Harbor relating to underage driving of the GEMS, and and there are probably people drinking in the GEMS. I'm just do you include the GEMS aspect of this in the traffic stop?
Absolutely, yes. So we pull a number for basically citizen contact. If we do something, if we get a call of something in the roadway and we don't find anything, we're not going to pull a number for it. But if we get called for service, we're out of the vehicle and we're interacting, or there's something that we need to document, then we pull a complaint number on it. So and I'm glad you said that, because in 2025 we're getting a new system. I should say CCE is getting a new system, Hexagon, which we will no longer be pulling complaint numbers just for mere traffic stops. It would have to be something that has a report to go along with it, or a citation. So if we do a traffic stop and issue a verbal warning, you're not going to see those same numbers next year. You're going to see a call for service, but you're not going to see a complaint driven number, because that system doesn't work that way. So I'll still try and put it into paper so you can see what our numbers are, but you're going to see a large decrease in our complaint numbers because of verbal warnings and things like that aren't going to get a number. And we do a lot of those. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you guys.
Have a good evening. Next is the consent agenda, and it's the adoption of a proposed resolution that would approve the following. February 17th, 2025, regular session and closed session city council meeting minutes, as well as acknowledge a receipt of certain administrative transactions that have occurred since February 17th, 2025. And also authorize contracting with David Hoffman Landscaping Incorporated, Petoskey, for the annual tree planting program for 75 trees. I turn it over to council for questions, comments. Mr. Moore? You want to see the minutes possibly before you do anything as for the closed session? Please review these, then we will pass them back after the afterwards. A second to look at it. No, good. Now I'll go for any questions, comments. Mr. Moore.
So I have some comments on the tree planting contract. So I don't know if you want me to move forward with those now,
You'd
or
like to pull that out for discussion,
it might be helpful.
okay? I asked for the approval for the consent agenda for the February 17th, 2025 regular session and closed session meeting minutes, as well as acknowledging the receipt from since February 17th, 2025. We will discuss the authorization of the tree thing following that. Miss Walker.
I'd be happy to make a motion, Mayor.
Support.
I have a motion from Ms. Walker and a second from Mr. Moore. Any other discussions or comments? There being none, I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Just clarifying, that is approval of the consent agenda, pulling out tree planting, not
Yes.
just pulling out.
Yes.
Okay. Walker. Aye. Demore.
Aye.
Shields.
Yes.
Nachtrab.
Aye.
Murphy.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Now I'll go back to the authorized contract with David Hoffman Landscaping Petoskey for the annual tree planting. I know there were 75 trees. They were the low bid. There were 3 bids. They were the low. Do you have some questions about that for the city?
I don't have any questions about the content of the bid itself. My concern is that at the very bottom of the front page, at literally the very last sentence, it says, therefore, the city manager will ask that a contract be offered to this firm with the ability to extend or adjust the contract by the unit prices bid. And I wasn't sure what that meant, so I asked Mr. Klinklesmith. And the reason I did is because when I flipped the resolution over, that aspect is not included in the resolution. So the resolution itself only is approving the bid itself to Mr. Hoffman, which again, I have no objection to. But if they want that provision to the ability to extend or adjust the contract by the unit prices bid, that's not included in the resolution. So I want to make that on the record to my colleagues to see if you want to go forward with it as it is or with that included as well. And I don't know if this.
I asked for comments from City Manager Horn. I think that's where the place to go for that answer.
No, that's appropriate. If you want to make that amendment, we can certainly amend the resolution with that in mind.
And could you, Mr. Moore, I'm sure you've come up with some wording for that.
If you look at the 4th paragraph that begins with now, therefore be it resolved, and you go to the end where the words say 75 street and park trees,
Okay.
you can add right there with the ability to extend or adjust the contract by the unit prices bid, semicolon, and continue from there.
The ability to extend or adjust.
The contract by the unit prices bid. That's just the language at the end there.
Unit prices bid. Also, any comments? Ms. Walker.
Mayor. So I did have a question, and I just was wondering what the role of the 2020 tree assessment and management plan is in schedules for replacement, care, and maintenance. So the city had undergone a tree assessment and management plan study in 2020, and that built out like every 2, 3, and 5 years out. And I was just wondering if this is still being utilized in terms of the intersection between tree plantings, maintenance and care, and the assessment that was done. Kendall's not here tonight, so I would be more than happy if I could get some kind of response.
Yeah, I can have him respond. I believe it's over 55 of these trees, 55 of the 75 will go toward the Howard Street reconstruction projects, which is not untypical when we have a new street reconstruction project similar to Lake Street. That is a fairly large planting that we undertake during those times. So Howard Street will see a significant amount of new trees as a result of that reconstruction effort this summer.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
I don't know if this speaks to you also, Lindsay, but I called because I was curious if consideration would be given to view shed with tree selection. And the answer is yes, consideration is given, but that these were mostly for the right of way. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think the word view shed is, my research states that it's not something that's guaranteed to a property owner. Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mayor. This is for Manager Horn. In the past, this is an annual item, and it's in the past it's come with a bid form that listed the different species and the number per species. And my request would, if that could just in the future come with that again, maybe not in the same form in the past if the actual bid has been changed. Just my assumption, the format of the bid has changed, but if it could include for the council and the public a list of the species that are being ordered.
Yeah, I can answer that, but I could also send it to you. The species in this year's bid are sugar maple, scarlet oak, American hornbeam, accolade elm, London plane tree, and tulip tree.
Thank you. Yeah, if you could send it to me.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Send it to all, that way you all have it. How's that? Any other questions? Mr. Knopfler?
Just a real quick question on a little background. Do we have a history of a lot of changing around of vendors of these guys, of landscapers? Is it typically?
Not for tree.
No, not for this. Not for trees. I think Hoffman's have had it for a number of years.
Okay, I think that's kind of important. Thank you.
As you can see by the closeness of the bid, I think they're right in the ballpark. They were only $800 less than the lower bid, so very competitive. One from Boyne City. Do I have a motion? Ms. Walker.
I'd be happy to make a motion, Mayor.
And that will include with the ability to extend and adjust contract by the unit prices bid.
Second motion.
So motion from Ms. Walker and a second from Mr. Shields. Any other discussion or question? Does the public wish to speak on this? There being none, I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Walker. Aye. Shields.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye.
Knopfler.
Aye.
Murphy.
Yes, the motion passes 5-0. You know, in the past, we've been doing thousands of more dollars. I think at one point we did $90,000 worth of trees. And it's come down to, was 40, 50 for a while, and I think it's now dropped to what, 30, under 40. So what it means is that the quality of trees that we have been maintained well by staff and by the arborist, and that we have a healthy, I believe, a really healthy coverage of trees along the public right of way. Next is public comment. That's your opportunity to come forward. You give us your full name, full address, push the button to green first, and then you address council, not to the audience. Does anybody wish to speak to council? No. Okay, if there being none, we go to old business. It's the second reading.
Do you want me to do this real quick or do you want to?
What's that? Oh, we're now going to city manager's update.
I apologize. We had taken that off the agenda last meeting just due to expediency and forgot to put that back in. Our apologies. This being the first meeting of the month, I want to certainly highlight again, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to highlight staff birthdays and work anniversaries. This is for the month of March. So this month we celebrate 3 staff birthdays. Joe Conti, Buildings and Grounds, celebrated her birthday yesterday. Adriana Bishop in the Finance Department, March 17. Our wonderful clerk, Sarah, celebrates a birthday this month, March 18. Jonathan Zoroff, Water Wastewater, March 25, and Wyatt Putman in the Electric Department, March 28. Work anniversaries this month. Amy's still here. Yep, she's in the back. She's obviously been with us in the past, but celebrating 1 year as our downtown manager this month. John Tompkins, Parks and Rec, celebrates 2 years. Sydney Nielsen, Water Wastewater, 4 years. Tyler Hart, Parks and Rec, 6 years. And Kendall Klingel-Smith, Parks and Rec, 8 years. A few things to highlight this week. This week starts our board of review process. Notices went out, assessment notices went out, reminder in the mail went out. So tomorrow we'll have our organizational meeting here at City Hall from 6 to 6:30 with the board. And then next week, 2 opportunities for folks to come and appeal their assessment of their property. One on Monday, March 10th. That'll be from 3 to 9 p.m. And Friday, March 14th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Folks can make an appointment and come to City Hall and sit before the Board of Review members. Upcoming meetings in the next, between now and our next meeting next week on Monday is Parks and Rec Commission. That's March 10th at 6 p.m. The Youth Advisory Council is also Monday, March 10 at 6 p.m. here at City Hall in this room. We do have a special Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on Tuesday, March 11th. This will be an education and training opportunity with our city attorney. And then the Art Commission will also be meeting that week on Thursday, March 13th, and they will be considering some submittals for Sunset Park from a sculpture standpoint. Wanted to provide you this information as well. I sent out this email last week, I believe it was, but we're gearing up for the Winter Sports Park Master Plan process. So March 13th from 6 to 7:30, we will be having a neighborhood input meeting. We sent out notices to all property owners within 300 feet of the Winter Sports Park, really to help us understand concerns. And I had this question raised, why do we give neighbors the first opportunity? This is fairly consistent whenever there's a zoning board of appeals public hearing, is we send notices out within 300 feet of that particular issue, concern, or a project. So similar to that, we decided to give the neighbors as close as in that radius the first opportunity to have some input. And then we'll open it up going forward. So March 17th through April 1st, community surveys will roll out. We'll have QR codes that'll be included in the April utility bills. So all of our utility bills will have a stuffer with this information, with this survey included, that folks can use the link on the QR code within the stuffer of the bill and complete a community survey to get that input. Likely we'll keep that survey. These are just kind of dates. We'll likely keep it open longer than this. I certainly realize and understand the world stops up here during spring break. So we'll certainly give people the opportunity to engage with us either before or after they return from their spring break period. But for others, the world doesn't stop. We still have work to do, and we continue to press forward. So we still have to get things moving. So, and then mid-May through the first week of June, is kind of when we're anticipating the community engagement meeting will take place. We'll again send invitations and utility bills, place information on our website and other mediums as well. We'll be sending out more information as we lock that date in as we move forward. Any questions for me on process or anything?
Mr. Moore.
Yeah, as I indicated to the city manager and our Parks and Rec director, I have a real concern about this survey rolling out when it's a 16-day period. 11 of those days overlap with winter break. And as those of us who have been here a long time know, people leave early, they come back late. So I would respectfully request that we, rather than just lightly keep it open longer, extend that closing date so that there's more time for people to offer their input in a meaningful way and really deliver the transparency that we're looking for on this survey. And I don't know what my colleagues might think.
I'm sure you have a suggestion on a date. What is that?
Well, I don't. I'm open to dialogue about that.
Okay.
Because I see that we're aiming for mid-May, the first week of June, for a community engagement meeting. So I don't know what might be workable and practical in terms of receiving input with a drop dead deadline and having that available.
I can ask city manager, or I can ask council. Council, do you have some input for the city manager on this? Ms. Walker.
Perhaps it could be just extended for a full month from March the 17th to April the 17th. Then that would give 1 month to aggregate the data and the feedback, and then mid-May being the time of the rollout for the community engagement. That would be one of my suggestions, possibly.
City manager, are you okay with that?
Yeah, like I said, the dates aren't locked in. We can push it out. Certainly we can push out the community meeting as well, but we do need time to assimilate the data that we collect in the survey and put that into some meaningful dialogue for the meeting itself. But the survey will not take a long time for folks to do. I don't think it's going to be overly cumbersome for people to do that. But certainly we'll adjust as needed.
Mr. Shields.
We'll go to the June utility.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Manager Horn, is the compiling and then analysis and then running the community engagement, is that all in-house staff?
Yeah, we'll also be using our consultant. We've reached out to our public relations folks as well that are assisting us with the millage campaign to give us some guidance as well on what that could look like. So we've got a couple different partners that are assisting us in this effort.
Will we be able to track any expenditures of funds for this particular
For the
master plan project?
Sure,
Everything
yeah,
involved.
absolutely.
Thank you.
The one problem I see is April 17th, if we extend it to that, if the utility bills are going out for April, when do those go out, Sarah?
That'll be the thing. That'll be, we may miss a month. We may have to push a month if we want to get inserts into utility bills because there's a small window there that we have to work around. But if we need to push it, we'll just have to do that. But
That would be my preference. I understand that we committed to the first quarter, but I think it's a priority that people have a good window of time to respond to this when they're here and focused perhaps on that opportunity.
Anything else, council, on that? I know that just because it says develop proposed programming for these people that are 300 feet from the winter sports park, this park is not a neighborhood park. This is a community park. So I take it that a lot of this programming, some of it will be done or be shown to them. And are you looking at more of how that will impact their lives as a resident near the park?
yeah, they're likely to experience more
Noise.
more potential concerns than anyone else, whether it's lighting, whether it's noise, whether it's, different events that go on, more traffic, as we add more components to the park. It's going to be a busier place, which is exactly what we want, but we need to have that input from the neighbors closest by, in my opinion, because they're the ones that are gonna feel the traffic and the noise and the lights and all of that. The last thing we want to do is add a lot of different amenities, and then we have a full room of folks that are concerned about, what we just talked about.
So those in 300 feet, if they were all to say we don't want ice skating, that does not carry a lot of weight with this, really.
It's just part of the evaluation process.
All right.
We would, yeah.
Miss,
Really.
Go.
I really like Lindsay's suggestion. I understand why April 17th wouldn't work, but a 30-day period where we have a defined beginning and end is very helpful, because then we can outreach that to constituents and they're clear with the time frame within which they have to respond. So it would be helpful to have those, and not when the bulk of it's during spring break.
If we utilize that, then it would push back. The process would be pushed back because the survey wouldn't go out until the May. Is that correct?
Push it back a month.
Yeah, it's likely just gonna result in a month delay, pushing it either to April 17th or April 30th. But
Bills go out what day? The first?
Yeah, that first week of the month.
They're available the first day of each month. However, finance does a review, I would say 4 days before the end of the month. And then our third party that does our bills, any marketing piece, they need to have 5 days before the first review. So it takes us a mid-month is usually when we have to have the marketing pieces completed and submitted.
Follow the situation, everybody. Yeah. Okay,
So am I hearing?
Mr. Shields?
I will voice the support for, it sounds like a April survey period of time then. It does, and understanding that delays the whole process.
So through the end of April, you're saying?
Well, 30-day period, so Ms. Beck, does that mean like the April 1st through April 30th? Is that what I'm hearing?
So we're gonna start at the 17th. We could do March 17th through April 17th as a 1 month. Is that what you're saying? Or-
If that's possible, what I was just hearing is that the mailing couldn't happen until the first of the month. So to get the notice and 30 days, it would have to be the month of April.
Plus you need time. Survey results
Mhm.
to compile.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. I can't really commit to a date without knowing.
Without knowing.
Yeah, we do, right, because if we were planning on having the QR code for the survey. If you're saying April 1st utility bills, we need that like in a week. But will we even have that feedback?
No. You would have it from May 1st to put out into the bills on May 1st then.
Yeah, because April 1st, I would need the flyer for the QR code, I would say by March 17th.
We can just check in with council at the first meeting in April and gauge how much further you want to extend it out from there.
I think that they're saying that they want,
Yes, I can.
Or just say
they want.
Yeah.
and we'll make it
Say a
happen.
date,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
you would say a date and then we'll work with those dates.
She did. So how does it work for March 17th to April 17th? How does that fall for the timing?
Well, it was my understanding Ms. Beck is telling us that it can't be done. Is
It
that,
can be
It
done.
can-
Then we done it, just
Yeah.
so everything
It will
just
push
gets
it
put,
back. It'll push it.
so,
So it will end up ultimately, the survey will be in the May 1st quote unquote, May 1st billing out to the public on utilities.
I'm fine with that.
Sounds good. I also am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So that's the motion.
We don't know.
Yeah, I need,
We need a,
That's April 1st right there.
can you guys
End of
say the
April-
date
end of
in the
April,
moment?
right?
The instructions from council I'm hearing are, we're asking for a 30-day period for the survey.
What's the
So
first date of the 30-day period?
whenever, first, as soon as possible. That works.
I feel like we're micromanaging. But the objective is you're trying to get the biggest net in the response.
Yeah.
So it would seem to me that we don't need to tell you that. If you listen to increase the net, you ought to be able to work out the schedules with the billing and the stuff. Yeah. It doesn't
Agreed.
seem to be very difficult.
Mr. Moore.
And then if we could have the dates certain, I'd appreciate that so we can outreach them to folks. Thank you.
Okay. All set with that. Next is and this is old business, second reading and possible adoption of a proposed ordinance repealing and replacing chapter 8. Article 7, open air food and beverage services, regulating dining decks. And I turn it over to City Manager Horn.
Yep, so this is second reading. After having our first reading, staff sat down with our city attorney and tried to come up with a few options for you to consider when we looked at the number of licenses or the cap of the licenses, if you will. So there's 3 options listed: option A, option B, and option C. Option A is unlimited licenses. No, I'm sorry. 5 dining deck licenses on a first come, first served basis. Option B is a number of 8 total dining deck licenses on a first come, first served basis. And option C is simply just an other that you can fill in your max as city council so chooses. So just to give you some options to kind of have this for second reading so we can potentially move this forward from an adoption standpoint for your consideration.
Also, your input on this, please. Mr. Moore.
City Manager Horn, were you able to determine if the number of sidewalk dining licenses could be increased by resolution? Because that was discussed at the last meeting in lieu of in an ordinance.
Are you saying dining deck or sidewalk dining?
Did I say?
I thought you said sidewalk, but maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's possible.
Okay.
No, I meant dining deck.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I did ask that question and it can be set by resolution. It was, however, the city attorney's opinion that it stay within the ordinance, just from the standpoint of if you're making that investment as a property owner, as a business owner, it carries more weight if that number is in an ordinance versus being able to be changed or flexed via a resolution. So it can be done. The recommendation was to keep it in the ordinance.
I feel if I was a business investing that kind of money, I would want something that I know was more solid than just, geez, next year they may change the numbers and lower it to 1 or 2 just because. So I think it's conductive, it's positive, practical for us to identify a number. Mr. Knobtop.
Mr. I agree with it. I think if someone is, we got some really good criteria for the decks, which we want that to look good. And that really, to me, is one of the most important things. And then you want any business that has the ability to have customers or patrons outside is very cool to do. So we don't want to be too limited on that. So I'm in favor of the direction that we're headed here, whether we do it 5 or 8 or.
Mr. Moore,
So I'm interested in option A to begin with, since this is the first time we've done this. And it's under the number that was requested last year, according to Ms. Tweeden. She's here and can correct me if that's wrong. But mostly for me, because the design committee recommended either decks or sidewalk dining, and now we're doing both, and the sidewalk dining is unlimited. Given this is the first iteration, I'd like to kind of see how this goes in terms of, you know, sidewalk availability and that sort of thing. So that's my thoughts at the outset.
Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mayor. My reflection, the conversation from the first reading was that there was some expression, at least from me, of not having a cap, that the restrictions that are in place for where a dining deck would be allowed, the instances where it would be allowed, that those are the regulations, and that we lean on those and not having a cap that would allow the flexibility Mr. Northrop expressed. So I'm not a fan of the cap. I remain that way. It's not, I think this ordinance is good. I want to see it move forward. So I'll concede to a number that this council agrees on.
Can I ask a question? Ms. Tweeden. At this point, how many have expressed an interest in this?
Well, we have had 3 total.
Last year?
We've had it, last year only had 2.
2.
Historically, we've had 3. And I've had a couple businesses indicate interest, but I don't know that they will move ahead with it, but because it is a big investment, but we thought moving to ordinance might make them more likely to do it, but they haven't reached out yet this year that they were interested.
There is an alternative to this, council. If it was to hit 5, we could come back in a matter of the next meeting and jack it up to 8 or 10. Is that correct? Yes.
You can change your ordinance.
Yeah, it would take 2
it's just the
readings.
process.
So it would take a month to change it. If we found that there was a rush to the door, we have the options there. Ms. Knobtop?
I think I asked this last time I was asked. Do we know how many potential businesses could have it? Could there be 10, 12, 15 based on the criteria?
Actually, I would count them.
We don't, because over time, business storefronts change. So something that is not currently a restaurant could be a
How
restaurant.
about currently? I'm trying to get a magnitude of the possibility of next year, let's say.
I have a list
How many?
of ones that qualify considering the
Your
restrictions.
microphone.
Microphone.
Of the ones that qualify considering the restrictions, there could potentially be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Ms. Lamar?
I'm just confirming with you, this has no proposed geographic restrictions. That was discussed but not included.
Correct.
Ms. Walker?
I think it's, I was assuming it was the central business district. So that's a geographic limitation.
Correct. It is within the downtown.
Within the CBD
only.
district, okay.
Yeah, but now we talked about it being limited to certain streets and we removed that.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Due to the sidewalk widths and street widths, we were considering that with Lake Street, and that was taken out. Mr. Shield?
In a scenario where we cap it at 5, there's 8 potential. And those 3 that want to get in, and a future council or council decides that they don't like the aesthetics of more than five, do we open ourselves up to potential lawsuit from those three that were not included? That's
No,
hypothetical, but
I don't believe we would if we set a number such as we did with short-term rentals. We've set a number by ordinance. It's public safe, or our city attorney has not questioned us setting numbers for things, have they?
No, but I think how we've done with short-term rental, we start smaller and expand as needed. I think that's probably the preferred approach, to start small and add as needed versus trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Well, I'm curious, what are we worried about? In terms, what could happen bad that we would say, oh, we made a mistake and we shouldn't have 8, we should have 2. What's the variables that come into play and even having this discussion to limit it?
Ms. Demore.
I think that's what I was trying to reference with the change from what the design committee recommended to what we see here. Because the design committee, and I'm not preferring one over the other, I'm just talking historically, is saying we should either have dining decks or we should have sidewalk dining. And now sidewalk dining is unlimited. That was the purpose of my questions the last round on this, kind of talking about, like, are we measuring between the planters and the buildings or that sort of thing? So for me, it's just, the downtown's a very vibrant place, lots of people wandering about, and I don't know the impact it's going to have. So I don't know the answer. I only know the question.
Mr. Shields.
thanks, Mayor. Mr. Moore, when you say unlimited, I would like to make the caveat though that it is regulated. So it's not unlimited. It's unlimited in number, but it's the space for walkability, like those concerns, those are met in the regulations. So it may be an aesthetic, maybe a feeling of congestion, but the ability to walk on our streets, that, correct me if I'm wrong, is in the regulations to make sure that our streets our sidewalks are walkable.
It is, and that's why I would add, there's also in this a balance of uses in downtown. So we know that retailers value restaurants, restaurants value retailers. This allowance of right of way is only given to restaurants and cafes. So retailers can't put merchandise on the sidewalk, although they'd like to. They'd like to rent a parking space and put merchandise in a parking space. They're not allowed to. So it's because we allow, and we've always allowed sidewalk dining unlimited as long as you could have the space. But this is one more ability of a restaurant to add vibrancy, but also to give that balance to maintain our commercial core.
Mr. Moore.
Do you know why the design committee recommended either or?
They recommended, it was also a discussion at the staff level. From, I think, when this first started being talked about of whether we move to an ordinance or not. And it was really that concern of there may be technically enough space, but it feels very tight.
Mm-hmm.
But the management board felt that was, as long as the regulation was met, that could also add to the vibrancy.
You're basically
Thank you.
walking single file, pretty much.
Right.
You're not walking shoulder to shoulder through that area. You're walking single file, which I think it would not be great if you had solid streets here, sidewalks where everybody was walking single file and not next to people or coming and going. You're having to judge to. I can see why the committee had concerns about it.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Knopf.
You're making really compelling arguments here, and I know I was kind of for no caps. kind of flip my notion here, listening to everybody. We ought to have a cap just to kind of see how it is. Now, whether my only added comment would be, since you've already got 4 or 5 interested people, and we know there's more, maybe we ought to adjust it to 8, but I don't like the unlimited cap idea anymore, at least for now, given what's been discussed here.
How many of those are next to each other where it will be a 4-foot single line to walk through the sidewalk? For how far, how many, are there shops, are there stores, businesses that will be, how long will the single file go for?
Currently, there's just the 2 on Mitchell Street,
Okay,
because we have restaurants right next to each other.
okay. All right.
And Mayor, I have a question.
I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just asking the questions about what is the walkability, the looks to it. Ms. Walker.
I mean, if you added, like if the Mitchell Street Pub wanted to apply, they're actually adjacent to those 2 businesses that are existent already. And right now, you do have to, for bicyclists, which I'm one of those people, especially in the summertime, you have to dismount off your bike at the gym, at Center City Gym, to walk through up east on the rest of West Mitchell or East Mitchell there to get through the dining deck and the street dining area. So it could potentially be even longer gauntlet if the Mitchell Street Pub were to apply for a dining deck.
I don't want it to feel like that's what we offer downtown. I think we have great businesses and great restaurants, and I hate to junk up, so to speak, the sidewalks to the point where it's single file walking through streets versus families and couples also being able to walk through our sidewalks. That's just an opinion, however. Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mayor. But just to clarify, the number of sidewalk dining licenses is unlimited. So we're talking about dining decks, which those are in the parking areas, they're not the sidewalk. So I think some of these concerns and fears we're talking about are 2 different things.
They are. Mr. Moore.
Respectfully,
Thank you.
in my mind, they're not 2 different things, because if some property has a dining deck and also has the sidewalk dining, that's where the problem comes in. And if it's unlimited, that's the space problem that I'm concerned about. So, thank you.
Other feedback, council. Yes.
Given my comments of just pushing back and digging into it a little bit, I am supportive of the ordinance, and I would vote to support 8. I would even vote to support 5, though that personally is not what I would choose.
Council. Mr. Moore.
I'm at 5.
I'm at 5 also at this point. I think we can come back and we can change it in a matter of 2 meetings, 2 weeks. First reading, second reading, and you change it. Ms. Walker.
I'd be happy to make a motion, Mayor, to accept option A as introduced with a maximum of 5 total dining deck licenses on a first come, first served basis.
I'd be happy to support that.
I have a motion from Ms. Walker, second from Mr. Knoptrop. Any other discussion, council? Does the public wish to weigh in? There being none, I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Walker.
Aye.
Knoptrop.
Aye.
Demore.
Aye.
Shields.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Now for new business is the adoption of a proposed resolution authorizing an agreement between Little Traverse Bay of Odawa Indians and the city for fire protection services. I turn it over to Public Safety Director Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I've been speaking with general counsel for the tribe James Bransky regarding this possible agreement that the city would have with the four properties that the tribe owns within the city's jurisdiction. Three of them have parcels that have buildings on them, and one is just a vacant property at the moment on Monroe Street. So they drafted this, so it's similar to what they have with Harbor Springs and Mackinac City, and just kind of went with it. So I think it's a good thing for the city, and I appreciated them actually reaching out to me for this agreement.
Council, Mr. Knobtop.
Yeah, I had several questions actually. Do you have any basis on how you came up with $2,100?
It was
out of the air?
I asked that question to them and they just said, well, based on them not paying taxes and with what is similar to the properties that they have in Harbor Springs and Mackinac City, that's the number that was presented. And they said that could be revisited as well down the road.
And do you have any, on the three that have buildings, do you have an indication of, are they in good condition? Are they up to code? Is there any problems that we've had with those buildings that we would expect to probably have some usage?
I know one of the buildings on Petoskey Street, they're all well maintained. The one is two apartments on Petoskey Street on the west side of the roadway, and the other is on Emmett Street, which is more of a community, correct me if I'm wrong, community building for the tribe, and the other is their offices on Spring Street, where their police department is and such.
So we have no issues with code, fire inspections or?
Well, as part of this agreement is for us to allow us to
do that
and to take a look, because it's sovereign land and we don't have any jurisdiction on it. So in the thinking that they would invite us in to give them some type of potential upkeep or things like that for fire protection was part of this agreement.
Thank you.
I feel I should also say that I am a Spartan too, by the way. Just to clarify. I've been sitting on that a minute. Sorry.
And I'll have to say, all my money, my two kids went to Michigan State. I did not go there, but all my money did. Okay. Ms. Walker.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian, for the information as well. Can you tell me, is the tribe undergoing another agreement with Resort Bear Creek Township Fire Department as well?
I don't know if it's an actual agreement. I know they are working on joint funding for an aerial fire truck.
And then the other question I had, if I may, I know that with the city every year publishes a schedule of fees. And so I wasn't able to cross-reference this one, but I know that there is a fee for if you wanted to like rent the have like the fire truck show up at an event or something. Is that comparable to the $800 additional fee? Or is that like how you would quantify beyond the $2,100 flat fee for the year, any additional services beyond that was $800?
They came up with that number. So I'm not really sure how to compare that. We do have a fee if you want to rent a fire truck for an outing. I believe Dr. Breed came up with that. I can't say that's ever happened, but I'm not really sure how they got that number.
The cost is?
I believe it's 500.
Similar.
Yeah, right, which pays because we have to have two officers that go with it as well. So
this is for actual, like an actual event, not just like a nicety. It's like, this is for like serious business. So I was just wondering where the fees that originated from. So thank you for the explanation.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Ms. Demore and I have a second from Mr. Shields.
Second motion.
Any other discussion? Public wish to speak? I go to City Clerk Beck for roll.
Demore.
Aye.
Shields.
Yes.
Knoptrab.
aye.
Walker. Aye. Murphy.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next, we're going to discuss closed session. I need the adoption of a proposed resolution that would authorize to adjourn to a closed session to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by statute pursuant to MCL 15.268(1)(h), specifically identified as an attorney-client privilege written legal option. And I go to council for possible support.
I'd be happy to make a motion to go into closed session, highlighting what the mayor just said.
Second
I have a
motion.
motion from Ms. Walker, second from Mr. Shields. Yeah, before we take the thing, I'd like to do a city council comments. I think that's great. City manager. Ward 4, Ms. Walker, do you have any public comments at this point?
No comments, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Knobtrap, Ward 3.
None tonight.
Ward 2, Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mayor. To quickly talk about salt and the use of road salt on the winter roads. Ask the question, how much road salt are we applying? First off, I want to tip the Mitt Watershed Council for hosting Dr. Al Steinman with the great Grand Valley State University and its Water Resource Institute, who gave a webinar on road salt and the impact it has on our freshwater resources, which we value very much here in Petoskey. The negative impacts of road salt are pretty extreme and all trophic levels. So throughout the food chain, the salt doesn't allow our local inland lakes to flip, which is a natural occurrence that's necessary from the cycle of a lake. So Dr. Steinman brought up these really important impacts of road salt, and then also mentioned towards the end of his talk some of the things that communities can do to be proactive, because we need salt. We need salt in the winter. But the question is how much, and can we use less? And can we sweep up excess salt? And then one of the big things he recommended is, since a lot of communities use contractors to apply salt, contractors are hired, they don't want to do a good job. They want to show they're doing a good job. So they're going to apply the maximum amount of salt just as a result of wanting to do the job well. So we have to communicate to our contractors that we prefer the minimum amount of salt used. And express that priority to those contractors. So, Manager Horn, I'll send on that link of that presentation to you if you want to share that with your staff and anyone in the community to learn about road salt. I want to thank Tip to the Mitt for putting that presentation together, and I hope share it out with the community.
You would like City Manager Horn, would you send it to all of City Council? You good with that? Yes. Okay, Mr. Moore.
It's my understanding that our legal counsel reviews the packet every time it's issued. Is that correct? That
They do receive the packet, yes.
okay. So for me, I'm concerned about trying to understand what exactly that means. Because to me, it's important that they're at least reviewing the agenda page and the resolution to make sure that what's being proposed is included in the resolution. And I'm not clear whether that's happening or not. So I don't know if that's of interest to colleagues, but I'd like to be clear on what that packet review means and if indeed they're taking a look at resolutions to make sure they match what we're being asked to do.
That's 100% staff driven. Resolutions are driven by staff. Ordinances are composed by legal. Certainly, if you want a deeper dive into the packet by legal counsel, that would be direction that I need by city council, because that'll be something above and beyond what we would ask them typically.
I would say, just from my perspective, it's really important. There was an example of that this evening. For an attorney to review the agenda page in a resolution, it took me 5 minutes maybe. I think it's really important to make sure that what we're being asked to do is indeed what we are doing. That's my perspective. I defer to my colleagues. Thank you.
Mr. Shields.
In the recent history, has that ever been the protocol?
I can't speak of here. In my past history, that's not happened. Typically, legal would certainly be involved when agreements and ordinances Resolutions, that's exactly what can happen with resolutions is your input amends a resolution fairly easily and you can repeal a resolution fairly easily. So not that there's no substance to a resolution, I'm not saying that, but we have legal counsel, again, reviewing agreements, reviewing ordinances quite frequently, talking about things going forward as well, what's on the horizon for them to work on. It's just more time for review, and if that's what council wants, then we'll make that happen.
Mr. Knobtrop.
I think one thing would be interesting to know is if they are given the packet, what are they doing? Are we being charged for something with that? You know, what is the actual scope of what they're doing? Because I think, you know, for me, I'm not a big fan of just having lawyers review everything that I'm just not a fan of doing that necessarily, other than what you described, Mr. Manager. But I do think it's important that we know as council what they are looking at specifically on a regular basis as part of their fee structure to us.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. I think some more information about what they're doing would be helpful. I am at this point, I'm not ready to ask for more expenditure of funds for attorney review of things that have historically happened. You know, more tracking of these incidents that are concerning to you, Mr. Moore, I think is very valid. And I know this probably isn't your only one. At this point, that's where I sit.
Okay.
Ms. Walker, anything?
About checks and balances with making sure our legal fees are not that high.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd be curious to know what is the extent of legal counsel's review of our monthly packets, other than as it pertains to ordinances and possible resolution, more so on ordinances.
I take it, planning commission deals with ordinances, correct? They also do resolution. They do ordinances.
Well, okay, sorry, I'm trying to multitask.
Okay.
So
I'm
planning
talking to the attorney right now.
for your planning commission can develop ordinances
Right.
specific to zoning
Right,
and have recommendations.
right.
But you guys ultimately
How about
decide.
the zoning board of appeals?
So you asked about resolutions. Planning commission does not do
Right.
resolutions.
We do,
Mhm. Typically,
yes.
because they're recommending by
And the zoning
ZBA.
board of appeals does,
No, no ordinances, no.
Ordinances.
okay.
Our city attorney is watching the YouTube, so I'm going back and forth with her. She chimed in, she does not charge the city for packet review. Looks like she's trying to say something else, but obviously she's doing a kind of a cursory review of what's on the agenda. I don't know.
She's not doing a deep dive on the ordinance that we would be discussing the past.
No,
It's not,
the ordinance, certainly, she put it together.
Okay.
So she's been very intimately involved in an ordinance construction. And, you know, when we send her the packet, you know, she does do a kind of a cursory review through it, but I can have more conversations with her as far as if she sees something and flags something, obviously she can get back with me. If she sees something that needs to be, from her standpoint, on the legal side of it, addressed. And if that's part of her cursory review of our packet, or is it when I need her to specifically look at something in the packet? I can have that conversation with her and her team.
okay. You good with that or still have questions? Mr. Moore?
I will await further information. I don't know what a cursory review means, and I know it's difficult that the way you're trying to communicate right now, so we'll just wait for further information. Thank you.
Okay. Uh. City council comments. You're done? Okay, I didn't know if you had more. If I will have no comments, at this point, we will adjourn. I do not know if we will have other.
Roll call.
I don't know if we'll come back though. We will come back for other business after that. I expect not tonight. Okay? Council good with that? Okay. So after we come back from the closed session, we'll adjourn and the meeting will be over. I go to roll now for Miss Beck.
Walker,
Aye.
Shields,
Yes.
Backtrop,
Yes.
Demore, Murphy.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Have a good evening. Drive safe wherever you're going. Keep in touch.
We're going into that room.
We get up and go the other way.
There we go.